Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch.
Euphoria. Hey y'all, hey. Welcome to Sisters Who Watch. I'm Shelby. And it's just me today. This is a special Sisters Who Watch Minisode where I am going solo to talk about Euphoria. I am one half of Sisters Who Watch, along with my sister, Laura, and we're sisters who watch everything: TVs, movies, sports, concerts, and even drug-addicted teenagers trying to figure out what it's like to grow up in Southern California. Whew! We love to watch, and we love talking about it even more. Today we're watching Euphoria seasons 1, 2, and the third season premiere of the hit HBO drama starring Zendaya, one of our ultimate faves. And now I'm doing this podcast alone, similar to the Bridgerton minisode from a few weeks ago, because Laura doesn't watch Euphoria. And I hadn't watched Euphoria, but my toxic trait is needing to be a part of the cultural conversation, I'll be honest. Like, the season 3 premiere was coming up. I was hearing everyone talking about it. I needed to start watching. So the last few weeks, I've been watching like an episode a day to catch up. And it's great because there aren't that many episodes in each season. Season 1 was only 8 episodes. There were the 2 special episodes. And then season 2 was only 8. So I was like, bet, I can do this. And I'm finally a part of the conversation. I'm so pumped. I will say the reason why it took me so long to get into Euphoria is because so many people when it first came out said I wouldn't like it. Because my friends, family know, I like more lighthearted content. I like to laugh. I love rom-coms. That's more my speed. Or a soap opera. Perfect. Euphoria's a little intense. And people were right. I will say I watched the pilot of season 1. I was like, oh, I don't think I can watch this. This is so graphic. It's so intense. But it was so cinematic and so well acted. So I was like, oh, I gotta keep going. And I eventually got into it. And so, but before we get into my review of binging seasons 1 and 2, and then watching the season 3 premiere, have to go over some housekeeping. So as a reminder, please rate Sisters Who Watch 5 stars. Make sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. So follow us on Spotify, subscribe on Apple and on YouTube so you're able to get updates right away when we drop new episodes. Also, make sure to follow us on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. That's right. We know the business side of things too. And you can also buy our merch as well as donate if you want to do some listener support. Whatever the support, we appreciate y'all. And just thank you so much for tuning in week after week. We recently celebrated our 3rd anniversary, and it just feels like such a blessing that we're able to keep podcasting and doing this. And I'm just feeling really grateful for all of the support we've had over the last 3 years. So thank y'all for supporting. So now for the background on Euphoria, as always, I'd like to give the logline of the title that we'll be discussing. So for this special minisode on Euphoria, here is the logline. A group of teenagers experience the ups and downs of love and friendship in a world of social networks, sex, drugs, and violence. This is not your typical teen drama. I grew up with like Degrassi, Gossip Girl, 90210, Vampire Diaries. This was another level, that's for sure. But what's interesting is when I told my coworkers after I watched the pilot of season 1, like, wow, I just couldn't relate to it. I understand. They're like, oh no, my high school was like this. And I was like, oh, I went to an all-girls Catholic high school and I was a relatively good girl. So I was not exposed to the craziness of like drugs and sex and alcohol and all the things. So this has been an interesting experience watching Euphoria because I'm like, wow, I can't believe people had high school experiences like that. I think it's been good kind of like learning, and like how I feel like Zendaya and a lot of the actors have said throughout, it's about giving empathy to these people and these characters. And I feel like they've done a good job with that because I have not had drug addiction issues, right? But I still empathize with Zendaya as she's going through withdrawal and she's relapsing and she's struggling to be a good daughter and sister and friend. Starting off, beyond being like shocked at how like intense and graphic it was, I was just impressed by the casting. And I knew all these actors that were in it. But when you really think about of course, didn't discover Zendaya, and some of these people had been in things before, right? Like Jacob Elordi had been in the kissing booth. But the casting director for this show deserves an award. I don't know how you get all these actors on the cusp of stardom and then make them stars. Daya already a star, but Hunter Schafer, Maud Apatow, Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi, Alexa Demi, and Angus Cloud and Barbie Ferreira are so good. If you like go down like the list, you have Lucas Gage. You also have Austin Abrams, Coleman Domingo later on in his career, but right before he really pops to a broader audience. Storm Reed. Like, I honestly am so impressed by the casting of this show. That is another reason why I had to keep going. I was just like, wow, it's really iconic how many great young actors are in this show. It's like really, really impressive. And so props to the production, the team, all the things. I'm just blown away because everyone's so good in this show. So good. Even like Ashtray, like Elliot, all the side characters that come in and out. And of course, Eric Dane, rest in peace. Always be McSteamy to me. But hard to think of him the same now that I've seen him as Cal Jacobs. I'm not going to lie. And now I see why Zendaya won 2 Emmys. I don't know how I was a fan of hers without seeing the show. Because this show like further cements her as such a good actress. I've been a fan from like Challengers and Spider-Man and all her other things. And now I'm like, I have been missing out. Zendaya is feeding me in this show. And her portrayal as Rue Bennett is just so different than what we're used to seeing her in. She's a drug addict turned drug dealer. She's a lesbian, like all these things. I'm like, wow, this is the opposite of Zendaya in real life. And so it's just really impressive how she transforms completely. I also think this was a really good break for her to get out of the Disney child mold. I feel like that's always what they say. Like you have to do like a harsh break to make people not see you as a Disney princess or as a child star anymore. And this is how Zendaya did it. Don't see you as a Disney star anymore. I mean, I was too old by the time Shake It Up and Casey Undercover started, but that's how a lot of people discovered her. So she really broke the molds. That's for sure. I also, having seen again, like the rest of the cast and other things, like Sydney Sweeney and Anyone But You, and Hunter Schafer in The Hunger Games, and Jacob Elordi in Wuthering Heights, and Frankenstein, I'm like, wow, they're all such good actors. Interesting, even like Sydney Sweeney. When I saw her in Anyone But You, I was like, oh, she's okay. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, she's a lot better in Euphoria. And I was like, interesting. And now I see why. A lot better in Euphoria. I think there's like a certain lane, and I've heard people say this. I think maybe she needs to play like the kind of thriller, horror, dramatic roles because she wasn't giving in like the rom-com. But Euphoria, she's really good at it. Everyone is. Also, what's been impressive is like how cinematic it was. I think that's what kept me going. I was like, oh, this is really high quality television. And I know HBO does that, but I have never think there's been such a high quality teen show. And it's still hard for me to see how this is a teen show given how intense and dark and graphic it is. But this is by far, in my opinion, the highest quality teen show I've ever seen. I'd hope people watch this and are like, oh, wow, this is cinema. I want to make content like this because I watched it and I'm like just really impressed at how it's scored. Oh my gosh, Labrinth. I had no idea who he was, but right away I was like, this music goes wild. Like the music is so good. And I know there's a little debate about scoring and the music in season 3 that I'll get into. But I think everything about Euphoria, the cast, the score, the vibes, the way it was shot, I can see why it was such a cultural phenomenon now. I get the hype. I understand it. And now I'm bought in. I'm late. This happened to me with Game of Thrones too. I binged it right before the final season so I could be a part of the conversation and watch it live with everyone. So this is a pattern. I did this with Vanderpump Rules. When Scandival happened, I might do it with Summer House and what's happening with Wes and Sierra and Amanda. So not shocking for me to do this. I'll say that. Just went through the first 2 seasons so quickly because of just how well it was done. And it's interesting because Sam Levinson has had a lot of drama and I think backlash after The Idol. And I didn't watch The Idol, but I just followed the backlash. And I remember people were like, oh, well, he hypersexualizes people and kids and Euphoria too. And so it's interesting now that I've seen it because I can see why Zendaya and so many others have said he's a creative genius. Like Euphoria seasons 1 and 2, really interesting, like super well done. Again, visually stunning. So I can see why they made this show. But I can also see why people have had critiques because it is very graphic, like Kat doing OnlyFans in season 1, Rue having a drug dealer friend in Fesco and then deciding she wants to be a drug dealer herself. Like, these aren't the best like themes that kids and teens should be watching 100%. I think Cassie and Maddy and a lot of the characters are hypersexualized. They lead with their body. So I do see how they could be critiques. So I see both sides now. And I haven't seen The Idol and I heard that's worse. I think if this show wasn't well done and was so like hypersexualized, then it would lose some of the appeal for me. Because even watching HBO shows sometimes, I'm like, this is too much. Why is it so graphic? And eventually, I think they stop trying to just do things for face value and like have more story. Like I've heard that's how industry has evolved. Like Game of Thrones, I think started out more graphic and then evolved. So I think Euphoria for me started out a little like in your face graphic, but evolved to something that I can handle. The last thing I say about why I'm glad I've started watching Euphoria is now I know all like the memes and references. Like the shot of Zendaya or like Rue like smiling looking at Jules. The shot of Cassie having a breakdown looking at herself in the mirror after or in the midst of her sister's play. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I get all the memes. I get all the references. So again, glad to be a part of the cultural conversation. It's about time. But I do think because I just binged seasons 1 and 2 and they're fresh in my mind, now going into season 3, the expectations are very high. And spoiler alert, I did watch the season 3 premiere and it's not what I was expecting. Having just watched the season 2 finale, which is the aftermath of Maud Apatow's play, Fezco's house being shot up and Ash getting killed, Maddy deciding to finally fight Cassie over Nate. Like, it was just so intense. Not knowing if Jules and Rue would get back together after Jules and Rue kind of falling out when she relapsed and then like freaked out at everyone. First of all, that was like the best episode. Rue going through withdrawal and running across their city. So good. I was like, Zendaya should have been like 20 Emmys just for that performance alone. And how you further see how like it's rooted in the death of her dad and how it's hard for her to be there as a daughter, a sister, and friend as she's dealing with that grief and she's been leaning on drugs. So I thought it was really good to further kind of contextualize her behavior. And I also think the show in general does a good job of showing like the family dynamics and how that impacts. Obviously, Cal Jacobs and his impact on Nate. Nate is crazy. I honestly don't know if I can look at Jacob Elordi as the same. But maybe that's his lane. Because if y'all saw Wuthering Heights, that was his same kind of energy, like crazy, evil guy. So maybe he's cornering that market. But Nate's crazy. I won't get over when he threatened Maddy with a gun to get the like CD or DVD of Jules and his dad back from her. That was like the final straw. I don't know how Maddy could ever look at that man the same. That was awful. And even though the gun wasn't loaded, still. And then he turns in his dad. And then you also see how Cassie and Maud are Apatow are like dealing with their dad leaving. So just complicated family dynamics that obviously affect you as a high school student and right as you're growing up. So very clear how family dynamics affect all of them. Seeing the background on how Fezco was raised and how his grandma raised him, that was fire. Seeing the background on Cal ended up how he was, fire. So all the flashbacks I feel like as well were really good. And the voiceovers, I'm getting distracted. I'm going to go back to how all of this led up to season 3. But the voiceovers that Zendaya does, so good. Like, that's, again, something that I really liked about season 1 and got into it. The fact that you started with a voiceover and background on each main character or side character, like McKay, Aldi Smith, like, crazy that he was in the show too. They just had such a good ensemble cast. It's really impressive. But all that to say, so much hype, so much really interesting stuff leading in to season 3. So for it to have a time jump and start with Rue randomly in Mexico threw me off a little bit. And the fact that not every character got love. Spoiler alert, we barely saw Jules. She wasn't in the episode at all. Like, what? That's crazy. She's been a main character. It also felt like Maddy was a side character. It felt like Lexi was a side character. The only people that episode felt like it was about were Rue and then Cassie and Nate, who are now engaged and living in a big house that they can't afford. The Rue stuff was really entertaining, though. Classic. Rue's always in a mess, has to get herself out of things. Drug dealing, swallowing drugs. Ugh. To get them across the border. So scary. And working for Lori. Oof. Brutal. Like, she needs to get away. Don't know if I want her to get away and start working for a strip club. But classic Rue. She feels like that's her dream job and a sign from God. So wild. I will say what was very intriguing about this is the whole, like, religious motif. Did not see that coming, considering Euphoria is a very, like, progressive graphic show. Exploring religion and Rue finding religion seems very strange and a bit unpredictable. But I do think that could be related to, right, her in recovery and trying to stay sober. Because a lot of times, from what I've seen and heard, addicts rely on, like, faith, right, higher power to get through. So it could be connected to how she's overcoming addiction, but it seems like she's just looking for a higher purpose. And I'm a Christian myself, so I was really intrigued, and I thought it was funny having Rue listen to, like, the Bible CD as she's Uber driving. And I just think if they flesh it out, it's very interesting. Like, I would be curious to see how someone like Rue finds faith. I also do think it's interesting how, like, Maddy's working now. She never thought she'd be working, but right now she's, like, a manager for influencers. Nate took over his dad's business. Cassie's a stay-at-home fiance, but wants to get on OnlyFans to make her own money. Lexi's an assistant in entertainment, following her dreams. And we hear Jules is a sugar baby. We don't see her, but we hear she's a sugar baby. Everyone's kind of doing interesting things. Again, only really see most of Rue, which I'm not mad at. But I did wish we would have seen a bit more of other people to kind of get a better sense of, like, what's happening, what's going on. But overall, I'm a Euphoria fan now. I'm locked in. I do worry. It seems like season 3 is the final season. We don't really know for sure, but it's really hard, I feel like, for shows to end. And Euphoria's seasons 1 and 2 were so good. And already the vibe of season 3 is different. A different composer. You no longer have Labrinth, who's a young Black British singer. You now have Hans Zimmer, who's an icon, but very different feel. The way that it's shot, it's not as moody or cool to me. It feels more like a movie, like old school kind of, and it was in the desert for a lot of it, but kind of, it's gonna be like Western. So the vibe already feels different. The way it's shot, the music, the tone, it feels like maybe it's going to be like a kind of cinematic movie thriller, like Chinatown or something. So I am curious to see how it comes together. The bar is high, and the season 3 premiere was fine. And again, a very big departure from the last few seasons. And especially since I just saw it, I'm like, oof. And we know that from the trailers and previews, we will see Jules eventually. We will see Cal. So I'm curious. One, because we know Eric Dane has passed away and he was dealing with ALS. Like, how they shot him and what's his role. And, like, did he end up going to jail because his son got him arrested? Like, what happened there? They mentioned that Fezco is now in prison, but I'd love to hear a bit more. I think that's the best way to handle the situation, given he's sadly passed away, R.I.P. Angus Cloud, but curious how they can explore that more with poor Lexi. But overall, I'm a big fan of Euphoria now. I get the hype. I get it. And I'm curious, do y'all watch Euphoria? That's one of the reasons why I wanted this episode, because like I feel like our audience would watch. I feel like y'all are tapped in. So let me know. I might do an episode at the end of season 3 to recap it all, depending how this does. But overall, I'm so glad I binged Euphoria seasons 1 and 2. And I'm ready for Euphoria Sundays. I hope y'all enjoyed this mini-sode, this little surprise solo pod from me. And if you'd like this episode, please continue to follow and support Sisters Who Watch. You can follow and subscribe on any platform where you watch podcasts. So please follow, like, comment on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Write us a review. We want to hear from you. So you can DM us on social media. You can email us at sisterswhowatch@gmail.com. All the things. And just, again, thank y'all so much for the support. It means the world. Stay watching. Bye.